Many times in modern media, I find myself gravitating towards the less popular or the underrated characters. Those characters who receive the screen time but aren't talked about as much as the main character would be, as they have this really insane potential to go practically anywhere within the story. In a typical bad guy versus good guy scenario, the main character usually plays the hero who defeats the bad guy at the end. In contrast, that side character can either pursue their own aspirations utterly different from the main character by providing a supporting role to the rest of the cast or being a roadblock in the protagonist's fate. All this ties into Ryuzo, a side character with endless outcomes, as we as the player get to experience why he chose the path he did. We don't get to meet Ryuzo later until the end of Act 1. Jin is tasked with recruiting a wide variety of individuals, one of which is the Straw Hat Ronin, where his story begins. In the Kishi grasslands, we find a burning tree and a dismantled cart. It seems like a Mongol convoy who was ambushed, which is strange, but a possible lead to the Straw Hats. See, the Straw Hats aren't some simple townsfolk who just know how to fight in combat. Within the description of their outfit, it says individuals who live and die by the bow and blade. The ambush and the aftermath of the fighting, we discover, is their forte. The trail of footprints found near the scene leads to a forest with dead Mongols and the lonely Straw Hat. Upon picking up the hat, Jin is attacked by a Mongol, which is then saved by a Straw Hat Ronin. This specific Straw Hat is the leader of the group, called Ryuzo. Not only is he the only named Straw Hat, thus making him an essential character to us, he's also important to Jin as this is his old friend. Jin and Ryuzo were friends when they were younger, but it wasn't all perfect. Back then, there was a tournament being held. This was to see the new generation of talent that the lords of the clans within the samurai could use for their clans by adopting them into the family if they wanted to, kind of like how Shimura planned to do with Jin later in the game. Ryuzo had personally invited some of the lords to watch as he was a lonely fighter and was fighting the heir to the clan Sakai, Jin, and this was his opportunity to prove himself. Specific actions and events, though, would cause this to not be successful for Ryuzo. This was Jin's first tournament, so he was very thrilled to fight and went all out right from the start, which gave Ryuzo a lousy look as he lost fairly quickly. On top of this defeat, the clans were more interested in what the future of Clan Sakai had as opposed to some no-name fighter, not only because Jin was part of a clan within the island already, which gave him more status than Ryuzo, but mostly due in part that Jin was already going to be a samurai, and if by some reason the island got into a civil war, the clans need to know the strength of the other rival clans. Even though they stuck together during the invasion, it's not uncommon for a clan to feel indifferent about its position compared to others. Maybe they have the worst terrain on the island, or are always hit the hardest politically. It only takes one person to start a war, so this tournament to some could be used as a gathering of intel. Regardless though, Ryuzo was not happy with this outcome and still continually brings it up to Jin even now. Because of this, Ryuzo needs to find mercenary work to try to prove himself and to others that he was capable of being a samurai, so he joined the Straw Hats and later became the leader. Fast forward back to the present day, Ryuzo and Jin are having a little reunion after their encounter with some Mongol forces to discuss their plans. At this moment, as explained before, Jin is looking for allies to save Lord Shimura. The problem is that Ryuzo needs help, their numbers are shrinking, and those few members they have left are starving. So Jin proposes a plan. If they find enough food to survive, the Straw Hats will then help Jin save Shimura as a sign of thanks. Ryuzo was hesitant as his men are all he has, but ends up agreeing but only on the terms that they find the food first. You then arrive at the Straw Hat encampment to discuss the plans on how to get the group the food they need. It's discovered here that the Straw Hats were at Komoda Beach, but the only reason they lived is that they ran away when it got rough. While this is a small detail, it reveals that Ryuzo doesn't really carry the same codes of virtue that Jin follows being a samurai. As leader, Ryuzo's men are his top priority, no matter the cost. The small instances we see of this in the beginning is the game's way of foreshadowing what lies ahead. Jin then arrives at Takuzudama Cemetery, where he meets Ryuzo to discuss the intel his Straw Hats have discovered about the nearby base. The plan is to infiltrate the lighthouse on the nearby hill to prevent reinforcements from coming offshore. Upon clearing the lighthouse, it is found that the dock they are near is only for transport. The food is being stationed there so they can ship it offshore. So the Straw Hats distract the Mongols while Jin and Ryuzo sneak onto the ship to find the food they were shipping. Once again, Ryuzo comes back empty-handed as after searching all the boats in the bay, none had any food. All isn't lost though, as a document with Mongol battle plans is found which could lead to some of the supply lines containing some food. Later then, Jin eventually goes to Komatsu Forge and takes it from Mongol control. Out of the blue, Ryuzo shows up and asks Jin for help. Ryuzo's men used the battle plans they seized from the previous encounter and got outnumbered and captured. But strangely enough, the Straw Hats were singing. People who are captors don't usually sing while in captivity. You follow Ryuzo and the rest of the Straw Hats who weren't captured to Fort Yatate. The plan is to sneak in, rescue the Straw Hats, then ambush Mongols when everyone is free. This is a relatively simple task, as now with the Straw Hats being reunited, you overwhelm the Mongols with ease. After talking with Ryuzo, the reason for their singing within captivity is due to them being fed food. As we stated before, the Straw Hats are surviving, so a feast of some excellent food is worthy of a celebration. With everything all set and ready though, Jin with his new allies take the fort to Castle Canada, except there's just one problem. Upon arriving, everyone has shown up except the Straw Hats. The problem is that there's no time to wait, so the attack continues without their support. The reason they aren't at the front gates with Jin is that they've already infiltrated the castle themselves, except for the wrong reason. The Khan has placed a bounty on Jin's head, and anyone can claim it. Ryuzo accepted the offer, but he still needs food for his men. Jin tries to convince him to have him join his side once more, but Ryuzo knows that even if he does and becomes a samurai, he'd be leaving his men to fend for themselves and probably just get sent to his death like a Komoda beach, and Ryuzo does not want that to happen, so joining the Khan is his only viable option. Jin and Ryuzo duel within the walls of the castle. Jin then defeats Ryuzo but leaves him alive and wounded. Jin gives him one final chance to surrender and join his side, but Ryuzo declines once more, alerting the castle of Jin's position and escaping through the gate. This is the very last chance Ryuzo had, but still chose to stick with his previous decision. There's no more going back on this, as Jin and Ryuzo are no longer friends, and the next time they meet, one is leaving alive. The rest of this encounter is played out normally, with Jin rescuing Lord Shimura and securing the castle. We get a glimpse of what Ryuzo is now dealing with as a result of his decision, which is attacking villages and forts with the Khan and killing people as a way to get them to surrender. Ryuzo seems displeased with his actions he has taken, but he knows not only can he not go back on his word now, he also understands that he and his men need to survive, and proving his worth to the Khan is the only way to do so. After capturing the castle, Ryuzo takes a back seat in terms of some screen time, but there is one dialogue that is shown between Ryuzo and Khotun Khan, which talks about the Khan's order to kill Jin. Ryuzo initially refuses, but Khan pressures him into accepting. Ryuzo then comes up with a plan that involves him not being killed. This leads us to the end of Act 2, right before the assault on Castle Shimura. Jin receives word from Shimura that the Straw Hats plan to flank the samurai when they attack, and that Jin needs to deal with this issue before they can proceed with the assault. Jin then enters the stronghold to find Ryuzo. They talk for a bit before Jin is knocked out unconscious and taken captive along with Taka, who join Jin in an attempt to prove himself that he isn't just a liability and he can hold his own. This capture of course leads to Taka's death and Jin's ruthless emotion-filled slaughter of the rest of the camp's occupants. The conclusion of this story though comes at the end of the raid of the castle. Jin, after poisoning the guards at the castle, walks up to the stairs to the main building and hopes to find Khotun Khan, but instead finds Ryuzo in his place. This then starts the final encounter with Ryuzo that Jin will have. Ryuzo tells Jin that he doesn't want to fight this time, very opposite roles compared to the last fight they had. Jin doesn't accept, as Ryuzo was an accomplice in Taka's death. Ryuzo comes up with ideas to make it believable that he wasn't a traitor, but Jin won't budge. Ryuzo is a criminal and he must pay for his crimes. With this comes the last battle between the two, with Ryuzo being killed as a result. This ends the tale between Ryuzo and Jin. It's a sad tale though. Ryuzo being at Jin's side would have been really incredible, especially at the ending of the game, but of course the two of them had different priorities, which led him down this path that would ultimately be his last. Let me know what you think about this encounter though between these two in the comments down below. As always, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey of two old friends doing all they can to survive, of course, but with different ideals that force them to cross paths and confront one another so that the victor may continue to survive and do what they think is right. Thank you for watching the video though. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed these narrative commentaries, and I'll hopefully see you all in a future video. Goodbye.